This is an animal, and this is a plant. What makes the animal far more intelligent, far more powerful, and far more dangerous than the plant is its ability to think. When something can think, inevitably, its thoughts will lead to awareness of one's existence, and awareness of one's existence leads to selfishness, a desire to act in the interests of oneself. Now, we tend to associate selfishness with evil and a lack of morals. But this negative connotation of selfishness is an oversimplification and completely ignores how selfishness is natural to sentient beings. In the process of evolution, the purely selfless species who give no thought to their own well-being will naturally cease to exist. With that being said, if selfishness is natural, then why are we told as kids to share and be kind to others? The answer is simple. Sharing and being kind to others is, in a weird way, kind of selfish. Let me explain. In trusting environments, the deadweight loss we would have incurred had we been fighting internal conflict is suddenly mitigated, and we all gain as a result. And by acting in a way that will benefit ourselves, doesn't that make these selfless values kind of selfish? However we want to define selfishness, the point is that it's human nature for us to be self-interested, and nothing quite allows us to observe these innate human qualities like the zero-sum board game of diplomacy. In diplomacy, the game is designed so that you cannot win without having gained at the expense of other players, a prime environment for observing selfishness in a vacuum. From our two games, class discussions, readings, and guest speakers, I've learned three main lessons that extend far beyond the constraints of a game board. Number 1. People constitute power. We often consider power to be composed of two things: money and social status. If you're rich and are the president, most people think of you as a pretty powerful person. But what makes money and status powerful? According to Hannah Arendt, people do. Money has power because people recognize its value, and status has power because people acknowledge positions of authority. In diplomacy, one's relationships with other players will almost always dictate their success in the game, whether through long-term alliances or short-term mutually beneficial agreements that actually profit you more. The idea that one's relationships with other people dictate success certainly applies to real life as well. As the adage goes, it's not what you know, it's who you know. The fact is, life is far from a meritocracy. Pessimistic? Kind of. Number 2. Trust but verify. The prisoner's dilemma is the crux of diplomacy. In diplomacy, players who form relationships with nearby countries are constantly faced with the question: invade or not to invade? If both countries choose to invade each other, they will slow each other's progress while allowing other countries to grow, surely leading to a crushing defeat. If both comply, they may grow, but perhaps not as much if one betrayed an all too trusting partner. In order to be successful in diplomacy, you don't want to play a prisoner's dilemma. Instead, create situations for other players where defecting is less profitable than the option of working with you. Trust your allies, but verify with troops that are ready to hit back if a sneaky turkey tries to get a leg up on you. 3. Beware of the Hitchhiker. Parfit's Hitchhiker is a really interesting thought experiment whose name you may have not heard of, but whose concept you've definitely experienced before in the form of IOUs and "I'll pay you back, I promises." It's about a stranded traveler who encounters a logically keen driver offering a ride under the condition that upon arrival in the town, the hitchhiker will pay the driver $100. The hitchhiker is rational too and knows that once he arrives in the town, he can run away and not pay the money without any accountability. Unsurprisingly, this situation often presents itself in diplomacy, a game where promises are unbinding and backstabs are abound. When making informal deals with people, both in the game and in life, it is critical that you exercise caution before acting. Will the other person have any reason to follow through with their end of the bargain, or will this be the last time you'll ever see them again? Humans are generally selfish creatures, but while our selfishness makes sense, we should strive to be better. In diplomacy, we have the privilege of depersonalizing our selfish actions, as at the end of the day, it's just a game. In real life, we don't have this separation between our decisions and our character. Making selfish decisions will certainly taint your reputation and discourage others from working with you. Furthermore, on the most critical issues of our time, we ought to be selfless. Challenges like alleviating worldwide generational poverty cannot be solved with a self-interested mindset. Selfishness is understandable, but in a world as complex as ours, it is not enough. Thank you very much for listening.